Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and we are currently playing through Renegade, and as of right now we are on cycle 2, round 3. That's right, so we're in the very last round of the second cycle, and I'm aiming to try to succeed at this countermeasure, even though I know a large majority of you are sitting there saying I'm likely not going to, and I'm probably not. But I'm going to do my best to succeed at as much of it as I can. And we'll just go from there, because we're really probably just based on what I've been looking at in terms of what I have in my hand and what I could potentially do on Salvation Server Red and the Virtuous Server Yellow. I don't think I can cover both. I can cover one, almost, but I definitely can't cover the other one. So I'm going to have to pick and choose my battles wisely here and just go from there. So what we're going to do is talk about the interrupt card that I talked about at the end of the last video. I gave you guys a choice as to whether or not I should go ahead and use this. Now, I did get a couple people that said we should use it. However, I did take a look at it and realized I really do need these green shifting, or I should say, cognition commands. I need these mainly for the ability to push the viruses to the different partitions for where I'm currently standing at the end of the game. You can see here in my hand I only have 1, 2, and 3. But one of my plans of action was to pick up the replicant jar, which costs 3 cognition. Currently in my hand I only have 1 and 1 leadership, so it's kind of dicey because I'm going to likely need to use a couple cards in order to make this work, and I'll kind of show you why. I sadly can't re-roll this. It's not that I can't, because I can, and if it was you in my shoes, then it might have been maybe a perfectly fine, valid strategic move, but I kind of looked at it and thought, you know, at the end of the day, I really do need this card. So I'm going to take this card and put it back in my hand as something that I can potentially use during this round instead of burning it on an interrupt from the last round. Okay, so we're currently, again, like I said, we're cycle 2, round 3. So we're going to begin here with the cards I have. And the one I'm eyeing right off the bat is to use Bypass right here, which is just a single cognition. We're going to the shop essentially for a shop action. We're going to pick up the digital tattoo. We've actually had this card before, but it was earlier on in the game, I believe. We used it. The reason I'm getting it is because of the option at the bottom here allows us to also gain when this card is used as part of a shop action, it generates 1 leadership. So that's really cool. So we're going to take this into our hand and use it, because that's very, very useful for us, especially in the buying phase. This is a deleted card now, which will get removed later. Okay, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to try and put my plan into action here of moving the contaminants around to try to put viruses on all the partitions I possibly can on Salvation Server. We'll see what we can get done right now. So the first step is to obviously pick up the replicant jar that I talked about. The reason I want this is because the execute action at the bottom, it says to flip any number of contaminants on your server. That's really helpful. It's going to allow me to flip all these to whichever I want, really. And it's my choice. I don't have to flip them all. So the cool thing is this, is that it does, I mean, the downside of this is it costs a lot. If we go take a look at our hand right now, I'm going to probably be using the self-modifying inhibitor in order to purchase this. It gives me 1 leadership as long as 1 cognition. But I also need to pay with 1 other leadership cognition, which I don't have, so I have to use a leadership card. The cool thing is I could use the ginger code, but I'm going to hold off on it and use a digital tattoo, because it says when you perform this card as part of a shop action, it generates 1 leadership. Perfect. So that's going to give us the 3 cognition we need. Now, when we go to, we've never actually, I don't think this might be the first time I'm ever using 2 to get 1. So what you do is you pick 1 card to delete. So I'm going to choose to remove this one. It's going to be the one that I'm choosing to delete. And this other one just becomes discarded and goes back in your hand. This keeps your hand at an even 15 all the time. Now the replicant jar is going to go into my hand. So now we've got a little bit less cards, but more options in terms of movement and also in terms of shifting and all that kind of stuff. We obviously know, first off, we're going to use that replicant jar, so I might as well probably just run with that right away, because I don't plan on uploading any more contaminants to the particular server I'm on or moving anywhere else. Now, the only other thing I could do before I do this is potentially try to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually use a move action. So I'll use 1 decrypt move action here to generate some movement, which is actually considered an information command. So it's going to send me, I'm going to send myself through my data port over to this data port. And then we're going to pick up 1 of the sparks, as I'm allowed to do with Tilda Sweet special ability, and bring it back over here and drop it here. And the reason I'm doing this is because my plan is to essentially leave viruses in all the partitions that have sparks at the end of this turn. So regardless of the fact we may fail the countermeasure, when the virus battle kind of step comes up, at the end of a cycle, you have kind of a battle, and wherever there's viruses and sparks mixed together, there's a battle essentially to the death. So if I can get viruses into all these other partitions, I can potentially blow away some of those sparks if I get lucky enough. So I'm going to do that, and it also frees up this because we know, guys, that we would be putting one more spark here at the beginning of the next cycle, which would trigger a Guardian. We don't want that. The Guardian would take away my data port. So that's another major reason why I moved that over there. So we've now used this for its full movement. I don't really plan, I don't think I'm moving anything else outside of here, so this card will be discarded. Now we can go ahead with the Replicant Jar and use it for its bottom ability, which is to execute to flip any number of contaminants on your server. So obviously I'm gonna have to do what I need to do here, and that's gonna involve me, well, actually, now that I think about it, no, I have to do this. Don't have a choice. So I'm flipping these things over to red. So these two are flipping to red. I'm gonna actually flip this one to green. You may be wondering why I'm doing that. I actually don't need another data node when I already have a data port here, so I might as well flip it to the other side to have the option of potentially doing shifting later on, so that's good. The other viruses I'm happy with being viruses, but this one here I'll flip over to viruses. So now we have a total of 5 viruses in that center partition of Salvation, which is great. So this card has now been fully used for what I need it to do, and it's discarded. Now I'm going to take a look at these 2 cards, which generate, oops, if I'm throwing them all over the place, generate up to 4 cognition. So it's going to give me 4 cognition, and I'm using obviously the leadership wild kind of one for the extra, which is going to give me enough to shift up to 4 contaminants in any direction. And you can, as long as you're combining them all into that one action, you can push out as many as you want. So I'm going to shove 1 virus out into this partition, 1 virus down into this partition, 1 virus to this partition. I want to keep 1 virus in on this with this spark. That's the other debate here. I have to decide whether or not, I'm just trying to decide here, because if a spark is currently on my partition at the end of the round, I think, I just want to make sure it doesn't destroy everything there, because that would be bad, and I assume that would be true. Let's see. Surviving Guardian. Okay, so essentially this spark could potentially delete all contaminants that are currently on that spot, but there's going to be a battle against the sparks, so I also want to try to cover as much of the ground as I can. Ugh, it's kind of a risk. You know what, maybe what I'll do, I've used 1, 2, 3 of my shifting. I have 1 more shift to do. The question is whether or not I want to, maybe, you know what, maybe I'm doing that, I don't know, let me think here. Yeah, I don't have too much else I can do, so I'm going to go ahead and shift this one out to here, I think. No, I'll put it here. I think it's tough to say, but essentially I've got 1 on all these different servers, but I'm missing 1 here, which is kind of too bad, essentially. I can't really do too much about it. But that's basically it. The next thing that I can do is, let's see here. Oh, actually, you know what? That works pretty good. You know what I'll do to avoid the chances of this spark causing grief for me? Maybe what I'll do is I will. I have 1 movement here, or not, I should say 2 movement coming in after this. So I'm just trying to debate over whether I should move something. I could pick the spark up and move it to another partition. I could bring it elsewhere so that it's not sitting here at the end of the turn, which these sparks, if they happen to trigger during that, I believe it's called the sparks battle step phase, or time frame of the countermeasures phase, if they trigger, they kill off other contaminants, but they wouldn't kill off installations. So I don't have to worry about my data port being blown up, but I have to worry about my contaminants being blown up and stuff like that. So basically, if I had my battle sparks war between these 2 and the spark 1, this would be gone already, and then the spark would just blow this guy up, so I lose him. So I'm trying to find a way to save him. The only way I could potentially do it is to, and again, I have shift, so I still have the ability, I guess with 1, 2, 3, no, I guess I have shifted everything I possibly can at this point. So with my shifting completely maxed out, I might as well get rid of the 2 cards that I've used to shift, just so we clear that up. I've got 1 card left, which is movement, so now I'm just deciding, do I go ahead and essentially maybe pick the spark up and bring it somewhere else, maybe bring it over here. and stuff like that to keep this area free, that probably makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and use my movement to come over here. So this is one movement. Even though I have the data port, this is an empty spot with no data node or port. So that's one movement. I'm bringing the spark with me over here, and then I'll spend one movement probably just to go back to here so that I'm kind of on a port for later for when I want to fire off into wherever other part of the server I want to go to. And so we're going to pretty much end it right there. So here we go. So this is the end of this particular cycle, or not completely. We still have to go through a couple steps here, but this is essentially the end of my turn as a hacker within the server, trying to accomplish the countermeasure. So all the cards are now complete. We're discarding them all, of course. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to move down to the Sparks battle step. So instead of getting the deck ready, I'll do the battle step right away here. So this is an interesting one. So again, like I said, virus battle step, or virus battle segment is considered to be happening right now. So all virus tokens must attack all Spark and Guardian tokens in their partitions with infect actions, but you cannot play command cards. So in other words, normally you can play these red command cards to boost your potential attack when you try to infect. Like if I was in this place right here, I could do an infect action, and we would roll these black and red dice. Obviously the colors coordinate to the spark and to the virus, and whoever comes up higher in the end when you add your sparks as well as your dice plus whatever commands you put in wins. This is the advantage for me, is having been able to put commands in, but as of right now in the Sparks battle stage, you don't get to put command cards in. It just becomes a roll-off, and then based on how many number of Sparks or viruses are in there. So as of right now, we have to kind of go through this step by step. So we'll just start with partition number 5, way up in the top. We're going to roll 2 dice, because at the end of the day, that's all that's really going to happen. We're going to determine who really ends up winning. So right now it's 1-1, and then it really comes down to this. We want to see the red dice come up higher, and it did. We got a 2 and we got a 3. So our virus successfully during the battle took out that spark. Thank goodness. We'll come down here to 3 and we'll do the exact same thing. See if our sparks... Oh, it's a tie. I don't know how ties are resolved. I don't know. Does it say... Yeah, you know what? I'm assuming it's a reroll if it's a tie. It would have to be, because there's no other way to really resolve it. Oh, the spark got me that time. So it looks like this virus here has been destroyed, sadly. So that's going to hurt me when it comes around to actually checking my success or fail. I mean, this is obviously coming back to haunt me, but at the same time, I knew I was going to fail it anyway, so I was trying to just do something about these sparks. That was my mindset. Another tie. And again, we're going right here on partition number 2. We're kind of going around in a circle. Oh my goodness, another virus down. This is not good. And you can see how this is way more risky to be doing it in the Sparks battle setup than versus you actually going in as an action and using effect. But we didn't have any red command cards or anything. Okay, and we got that one, so thank goodness. We got them. It's kind of an even stroke there. We basically took out 2 and they took out 2 of us. So it didn't exactly go to plan there. So things kind of went south pretty quick. And who knows, maybe my strategy in that situation was terrible, but I didn't really have too much choice, and my countermeasures kind of screwing with me. Anyway, so that is the end of the Sparks battle step, at least that particular part, sorry. The next is we delete all contaminants segments. So basically any surviving sparks that are on the map right now are going to go ahead and delete... let's see, I just want to make sure I do this correctly. So surviving Sparks and Guardian tokens, sorry, automatically delete all contaminant tokens on their partitions. So this one right here, my contaminant for this one would go, not the installation, but the Spark is here, so my data node is gone. I probably should have taken that away. These Sparks are clean by themselves. All this is fine. All this is fine. All good. We don't have any Guardians on there right now, so it's okay. Then we're going to go ahead and do the delete installation segment. So surviving Guardians automatically delete all installations. We don't have any Guardians, so we're okay with that. And now we can do our success or failure of the countermeasure card. This is where things get even worse for me. So we're going to go ahead and take a look. Our goal obviously was to have 1 or more viruses on the Salvation Red server on every open partition and on Virtue. So essentially it was both, and we didn't really do that. So now we're going to flip this over and find out what happens, and there we go. The fail's already ready for us right there. So it says, what does it say here? Add 2 sparks to every open partition on Virtue and Salvation that does not contain a virus. Oh my gosh, that is a lot of stuff happening. Okay, so we're going to do this one at a time because this is quite a bit. Oh, you know what? This could be the end of the game right here. So here we go, guys. Like, so here we go. We put 2 on here. So we're putting 2 on every open partition on Virtue and Salvation that does not contain a virus. So you know what's going to happen, guys. What I told you way back in the playthrough was the couple ways you can lose in this game is if you run out of sparks. Now I'm putting these down incorrectly. I'm putting these down. Flip the flare side up. There should be 2 sparks, 2 sparks. This is insane. As you'll notice, my cup run is short, and it appears, guys, that this playthrough is coming to a quick and decisive end, as I can't even continue. Now, if I had gone ahead, I could have taken these and started doing them over here as well. And what would have been crazy was, obviously, if I had enough sparks, another one would go here, 2 would go here, none would go on these 3, 2 would go here, 2 would go here, turning this into the very first Guardian of our game, essentially, and then 2 would go here, turning this into another Guardian. So you can see how insanely quick something could mount. Of course, it doesn't matter because the game rules state as soon as you run out of sparks and can no longer put any on the server, the servers are already overwhelmed at that point, and you have failed, which means I have failed. So even though I did such a great job in Gloom Kill Forth and we were able to push through on that playthrough and come out with a success, guys, it looks like the mother actually got to me, and I wasn't able to actually even get past. Technically, I only got past 1. I succeeded at the very first countermeasure, failed miserably at the second, which killed me. I haven't even seen the other 2 yet, which I'm not even going to bother to show you because you will see it in the base game when you pick it up on Kickstarter. So again, guys, you can see, and I know there's a whole bunch of other playthroughs out there currently actually for Renegade, quite a bit actually, across the board. There's many people that have covered the game. They've done a fantastic job because some of them have done the lower level difficulties, which might have helped you kind of understand a little bit more about the sparks turning into Guardians and stuff like that. I can tell you, because I played the mother and because of how things had separated out around the board, we actually didn't even get a single Guardian out before I failed. So this is kind of cool. Maybe it shows you a different way of how you can lose, whereas in I think some of the other playthroughs, most people got Guardians out that they had to try to combat and get rid of. And of course, the sparks were always a problem, but I don't think I don't think there is anybody that potentially lost based on sparks actually overwhelming their servers to the point of not having any left to pull out onto the board. So that's definitely a unique ending, probably, hopefully something different than you were expecting. And again, I'm sorry it wasn't a success, but I hope it was still enjoyable even though. So again, I encourage you to watch all of the content you can on Renegade. You can find it doing just a generic YouTube search. There's many people that have covered the game, and they've all done a great job. So and they did much better than me. I think a majority of them actually won and weren't foolish enough to actually go against the mother, which was absolutely insane to me. So I just proved essentially that you can't go for the main boss of this game on your first run through and expect great things. Richard Wilkins or Ricky Royal has done a great job in building a game that is not going to be something you can game and just essentially win very quickly. So as you can see, I didn't do things so great in this playthrough. But anyway, it was a ton of fun, and I can't wait to see the final product, because it's obviously going to elevate. Its production value is going to go up. The servers are obviously going to get a little bigger, I think. I think the partitions are supposed to expand in size. So situations like this, where we have like multiple contaminants and installations in one area, it's already jam-packed full. The new production is going to have things a little bit bigger, things are spaced out. The cards will obviously be a higher quality. The box will be nicer. All this stuff will be at a, and I think there's already kind of like nicer dice. So this dice is very much prototype, along with the majority of this, almost everything really. And so all of that's going to be elevated. It'll be really cool to see what it looks like when it's all said and done. And again, I want to also mention that I am doing that giveaway, guys. So if you have just jumped into this playthrough and you haven't heard of the Renegade giveaway I'm doing, just jump onto my YouTube page that you should already be on. And if you're not, just jump to the home page. You'll be able to see there's a giveaway section. And I have 2 currently running at the point in time that I recorded this video. So, I mean, if you're watching this in the future, I'm sorry. But as of right now, there is an opening to put your name in and be able to register to potentially pick up a copy of Renegade for free, which would be awesome. And it's going to be the final copy. So anyway, guys, that is all I've got. This is the end of the Renegade playthrough, at least until we see the final copy. This is the Kickstarter preview coming to an end. Thanks again for all the support. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, guys, keep on rolling solo.